Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this session on women in science. So we are going to start off with a talk by Dr. Chitrana Kalavida, after which we'll have shorter presentations by all of us and probably some kind of fruitful discussions. So I welcome Dr. Chitrana Kalavida to come here. Yeah, you can sit down. I'll just turn the screen.
So I don't have the projections.
No. This is perfect.
I guess now people are more, PowerPoint is more attractive because it gives you a sort of a visual. But anyway, this is like, I don't really have things like diagrams and illustrations and things like that to show you. But I'm just going to raise certain issues and certain, broad aspects in relation to this topic. And you're free to interrupt at any point. So if you have anything, either a question or a doubt, or you want to add something, or you want to make a correction to what I say, that's all fine. You can just sort of raise your hand. You can interrupt so that it will be in the more the form of discussion.
I don't think there is anything.
How about there?
No, that thing doesn't work.
Okay, maybe you can sort of come up closer otherwise.
Yeah.
The fan might be. I think also this.
Now I think yeah.
It makes a lot of noise. Because my voice is loud, Not many people have a louder voice than me, right? So, okay. So what I've done is I've just put down, as I was saying, certain aspects in relation to this particular topic of women and science. So you are all free to interrupt at any point, interject with anything you want to add or you want to ask or whatever. I think that should be fine. So, and without PowerPoint, as I said, because I didn't plan it as a PowerPoint show, I don't have any sort of diagrammatics or anything to show you. So I'm just hoping that it's not going to be very dull for you. Priya, I think I need some fan, it's a bit hot. Some at a low speed, if that's possible, because.
Can you switch on the AC?
Yeah, it's working, I think. No, it's on, no, it's switch off.
It's switch off.
Okay. This is a.
Yes. Yeah, you can go on that.
You got it? Okay, so shall I start?
Yes.
Yeah, so we are just, basically talking about women in science, right? So there are different ways of looking at that aspect. So people have looked at it, for example, in terms of asking the question, what is science really all about? Is it at all pro-women? The perspective. So is it whatever knowledge we have, is it an entirely male perspective, which doesn't pay any attention to women's points of view or women's needs, as it were, and from a more of an angle that is pro-women. So that is one critique, that people have used about science, saying that it's entirely, which is, of course, I think borne out by the history of science, male-dominated and also male-centered in the kind of content and the discoveries, and the kind of technology, where in fact there's no emphasis on women per se, because women play an entirely different set of roles. Of course, they are professionals, they are experts and all that, there's no question about it. But there are certain specific social roles that women have, which are somehow not emphasized in science by their own, according to the perspective of women. It's rather in other perspectives, right? So that's one of the criticisms that science has been subjected to. And this is really as something that came up when, this whole question of women and women's rights and so on has grown as a field. So it's actually after the 70s, 80s, and say maybe in the last 50 years or so. Before that, it was really not thought about at all. But here, what really I'm concerned with is what is the presence of women in the field of science, right? Whether we're talking about institutions or establishment of science, what is it that we recognize or we know as the situation of women? So, as you all know, and I don't need to tell you, you yourself are standing examples that women have entered into very, very different types of scientific areas or realms. And, this ranges from biology to rocket science, right? And the numbers have been varying. So, but one trend which is obvious in this is that women tend to take up more of what are called as the soft sciences, right? I'm going to explain that in a minute. And among the what we know as the hard sciences, we have the so-called, the hardcore science, which is, physics, chemistry, biology, which includes astronomy and all that, all the sub-branches of physics, which are the hard sciences. But, there are also social sciences, which are science. Women's studies, for example, that is also. So these have come into the realm of science over a period of time, but they're called as so-called soft sciences. And so many of those fields have a lot of women. So that's what we're talking about, women being more in soft science, psychology, philosophy, these kind of areas. So the hard sciences, among those you have biological sciences, I think, which have a much higher number of women working in them, doing research or working, compared to mathematics, physics, astronomy, astrophysics, etc. Engineering has even smaller numbers. And this is relative to men or relative to what you would say the total number of people involved at a given time, right? So now it is very easy, and we, as I said, all of you, we are all standing examples of that women don't have any inborn lack of ability. So there's nothing like an inborn lack of talent or a lack of ability to do any sort of research, right? Any cutting edge research, women can take up without a question, right? That we know by now. And of course, there are outstanding women, which I also need to tell you about throughout the history of science. If you see, you have Marie Curie right from the year 1903 when she was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics. And there have been 25 Nobel awardees in science over the years. So there's, however, one trend in this. So if you see the number of awards that have been given to women, there has been an increase in these awards with time. So starting from, I mentioned Marie Curie, from early 1900s till 2023. So you're talking about what? How many years? 123 years. Yeah. So there's been a sort of a shift in this ratio as far as women laureates are concerned. So I said 25, but if we look at the number of awards given to women laureates, for example, in physiology and medicine, in the last 20 years alone, 6 awardees were women, right? Between 2000 and 2023. Nobel. Whereas an equal number of awardees were women in the period from 1947 to 2000. So that's almost 50 years. So you have certainly, there's been sort of a catching up, so to speak, of women Nobel laureates in terms of the number of women who have been getting this particular prize in the recent past, especially in this millennium, especially in the last couple of decades or more. So similarly in chemistry, 3 women have received the prize between the years 1911 and 2000, right? From 2000 till date, there are 5 women laureates. So you're talking of time span of, half a century or sometimes 90 years, and comparing only with the last 20 odd years, and you find the numbers are equal or even better in the last 20 odd years, right? So that's what we see. So what do these figures actually show? They show that perhaps the increasing number of women working actively in science in the last, say, 40, 50 years, few decades, compared with before that, previous years. It could also reflect that women's contributions have been recognized much more in the current millennium. So they're getting much more and better recognition, being recognized more often than they were before that. It could also mean that. So, but despite all this, now this is a positive sign, right? No question about it. But despite all this, there are problems that have been noted and which have been written about actually. in terms of the relative numbers of women that are actually enrolled in scientific work, right? And there is a pattern here. So, what is that pattern? So, what is the critical matter, the key issue here that has been a matter of concern in relation to women's participation in science? It's being called, with a very attractive term. It's called the leaky pipeline, right? You must have heard about it. Have you heard? Anyone heard this word, leaky pipeline? Yeah, you know about it quite. Right. So what happens here is that women are found in much smaller levels if you go higher up in the career ladder. So as you go to higher levels of the profession, there are very few women. And if we go to the topmost positions in a profession in science or in a scientific career, then they become extremely small in number. So we have this being documented by many professional bodies, who have looked into this problem. So, for example, the Indian National Science Academy, right, which we abbreviate as INSA, has done a study on this, and they showed that even in the last 1 decade, if you look at the enrollment of women in different levels of education, so right from undergraduate up to doctoral levels in science, women were roughly half. So the 40% of the total enrollments were women. So it's fair, it's almost half. Whereas if you look at the total number of women scientists, for either faculty or technical staff in major scientific organizations and universities, it was no more than 15%. So where are all those women going? So 40% at the undergraduate level, you're down to 15% if you look at the jobs in the academia. So again, if you look at the US, completely different culture, right? Very advanced country in science, and also certain things that women have, got a lot of rights, in terms of whatever, that they are able to do on a daily basis. But even the National Science Foundation in the US, they have data that show that in psychology, you have 2/3 of women. In biology and life sciences, you have less than half. Mathematics and computer sciences, less than a quarter. Engineers, less than 1/10. So there is a discipline-specific partitioning which shows clearly that women are present at a much, much smaller level in certain disciplines as compared to others. So, same thing in schools and colleges, girl students equal to boys or outnumber the boys, but the numbers keep on dropping as you go further up in the level of education, and there are very few women who are professional scientists, right? So if you look not just at faculty, professional scientists like researchers, staff scientists, faculty, and so on, that's also low. But if you look further at higher administrative positions like dean, head of department, school principal, directors, and that sort of positions in scientific institutions, it's even less. It's so few that you can count them. So as a premier institute like CCMB, how many group leaders do you think are women till now, at present? There are only 1 out of 7 group leaders were women in our own city, right? And you look at all the universities, you can look at as many as you want, less than 25%, 25 to 30% women. In my own institute, LBP, right, there are 2 out of 10 people who are women in the top leadership positions. And also LBP makes it a point, like they have this thing about gender representation, and certainly the former chair and the founder has made that a statement in certain ways. So now we have a woman who's head of the Banjara Hills unit, but in spite of that, 2 out of 10 positions are women, even in an institute like this, which is much smaller and where certain policies seem to be implemented. Yeah. So if you look at technology giants, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, as per a UNESCO report, Microsoft has 20% women in the top leadership. Samsung has hardly 6% women in these roles. Similar proportion of well below 30% applies to Amazon leaderships across the world, wherever Amazon is present. So this is not new. Now, gender inequality has been known, it has been talked about for a long time in science and in scientific establishments and institutions. But they haven't really attracted a lot of attention. Maybe 1 or 2 odd people here and there about it, but nobody bothered too much. especially not by academies, not by governments, which is what is happening now. So it didn't merit much attention in the mainstream bodies or in the media. So, and most people didn't question it. They thought, oh, science is gender neutral, it's equal for men. You know? So, same thing. If you look at academic fellowships, the Indian Academy of Science, National Academy of Science of India, how many women fellows they have? Very, very few. It's pathetically few. So why has the status of women in science become a cause of concern? You know, in governments particularly and scientific official bodies, academies, etc. What people recognize is that you want to place India as a global leader in science and technology within the early part of this millennium, which is very much what India aspires to be. You need a diverse workforce. You need people with diversity of thinking, different perspectives, different abilities, and the more diverse it is, the more you can achieve. So they think that by losing those women, by not having them there, they're actually losing out on a very precious resource. That's what's happening. So you need to utilize the full human potential, and that's what has been recognized for innovation to happen and for progress in general, right? So in the science and technology innovation policy in India about 10 years ago, India was wanting to be positioned in the top 5 global powers by 2020. One of the aims in this policy was gender parity. And the reason is this: to increase the human diversity and increase the potential of the human workforce. Not that they were per se interested in justice for women, not that, but this. So it came around from a different angle. So even Indian Academy, as I said, has put forward, you won't believe it, a gender policy commitment. And the commitment is to promote gender equality in science and achieving more women among the fellows. So Indian Academy of Science has 114 women fellows. Guess how many fellows total? Any guess? Take a wild guess. 1,000. Well, you're hitting it way above. But, so out of 1,000 odd fellows, 114. So they're about 10%. So you know how they have a long way to go till they achieve anything like gender parity. So, but the academy has taken certain very deliberate initiatives. So they brought out a book called Leelavati's Daughters. Anybody know about this book? It's available. Been available actually for some time. So what they've done is they said one of the ways is to highlight women who have been in science, who have been active and who have contributed within India. So they've taken 50 odd women and collected from them their biographies, the stories of how they navigated their lives and personally and scientifically, how they managed their careers, and they told their own stories. So it was collected into a book and a volume. So that was one of the academy's initiatives. And so gender policy was, of course, aiming to promote gender equality as a human right. So it's a basic human right, and that is the status it was given. And the academy set out that this should be achieved by engaging with government, if necessary, other public agencies or whichever agency to support that. You know, the women are actually supported and are able to progress further in science. So what is the reason? Why are we having this pipeline, so to speak, and why do we find fewer and fewer women in the hierarchy? So it's not, as I said, it's not inclination, it's not ability. We have plenty of examples. And since girls enrolls in the enrollment in school is in proportion to boys, you know that there are no differences in their ability; they do as well or better. But you know, it is social barriers. So you know, so women are not able to continue this in their profession because of these. And so you know what you probably know, but I'm not sure how, because between disciplines also they're different. So, you know, the whole scientific profession is very long and painful, I should say, in some ways. You need an uninterrupted trajectory or path, so to speak, where right from your post-graduation, you go into a doctorate, then you need something like a postdoctorate in most fields, which can be quite long in biology especially. Then after that, you may be eligible to go as an independent faculty. So which may span several years starting from post-graduation. So it's an uninterrupted stint. And this is the age when women need to look to family priorities, family demands. They need to start families, you know, so it's marriage, it's having children, all this actually becomes, you know, they become situations in which women don't have enough support. And this uninterrupted stint in which you retain your productivity and remain high productive with many good publications. How does it happen if you need break in career because of marriage or because you have a child? it becomes, works out to the disadvantage. So again, because of this, the academy has argued that you should have an institutional support, child care support system, which is guaranteed by the institution or the university. And there should be opportunities to work from home for women, and they should be able to participate thereby, even though they have child care responsibilities and other domestic, you know, work, which they cannot, which they cannot leave or avoid. So these systemic provisions are not there. So women's professional interests are not protected during these things, and they don't have sufficient number of female scientist role models. Who do we look up to within our own culture, our own country? There are, as I said, like that compilation, like what academy has brought out, and within our own environment, we obviously find scientists, doctors, and so on. But they're not enough. So what do? They will not feel encouraged by the situation, but rather, and we've come across n number, so many young people and people at the time when I was even doing my PhD, classmates, everybody, there was a situation where they said, look, this is not for me, how can I carry on? Drop out somewhere along. So they choose steady jobs. So what do you choose? Instead of a career that depends on publications and grants and continuously being productive and nothing being certain, they choose a steady job, like maybe you can go for a teaching job in a college, maybe you can do, nowadays companies are also not very steady in the sense, stability is not assured, but something like which will assure them of something like which is more unchanging rather than a career in research. So you have to do research, you have to manage funding, you have to manage productivity, as I said, publications. So what is the thing that is lacking in this perspective? That women have these responsibilities, and so they are forced to opt out of a scientific career. There's one thing that is wrong with this perspective, that the responsibilities that come with marriage, motherhood, looking after children are seen as women's personal priorities. That's not correct, that's wrong. Because women, by having children and taking care of them, are actually performing a social function. So you are raising the future citizens of this country, right? So that has to be, obviously that's something that's done. It's an essential function that has to go on. And it is, by default, it's falling only on women. Men don't take part in it, largely. So it is a social function which they're doing. It's not their personal choice. It's not a personal priority. So women's movements have been saying this for a long time, that you cannot take this as a personal priority. We're running out of time. So then there are examples of very famous scientists who have tried to take care of this aspect of taking talented women scientists in research and saying, let us provide for this for these women. So for example, Jocelyn Bell-Burnell, astrophysicist from UK, you might even know about her, and Christiane Noslin-Walher, who was a Nobel laureate some years ago. So they have actually taken initiative to set up fund to provide child care for women, deserving women who want to pursue a career in science. So, so this is what has happened from people like this. So Noslin-Walher provided her Nobel money to set up a fund for child care for young women scientists. You're saying something?
That's amazing. I can't hold it. It's amazing.
So yeah, so what else do you need? So what else are women lacking on? This is one obvious thing, I think, because you know that women have these things. So if you want to go up the professional ladder, it's not just I do pure science, I do good science, I'm good in my subject, I will publish. No, even for getting publications in top journals, for getting grants, you have to be member of boards, right? Top committees, so that you're on selection committees, you're on whatever decision committees and so on. So many committees where you get importance, people know about you, all this is important. So how does this happen? You need all these things. You want to move up in your profession and have that status, high status. You need networking. Means what? Connections. So to get these connections, you need to have tie-ups, you need to have friendships with people. So women somehow fall behind. Why? Because most of those people in the establishment are men. So they form boys' clubs. They're all talking to each other and the women don't get to be part of the club. So they get left out of all these benefits because they are not part of this old boys' club as well. And this has a role in getting promotions, in getting awards, positions, editorships, all those things that give you a sort of prestige, which is also important.
It's a place where the woman is exposed to a elite society, it's a elite profession. There we think it is required, it is important voice the women's that will affect the women's purpose.
Yeah, it affects. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not women's club. There's no such thing as women's club. It's not just like, okay, we all may call ourselves a club, yeah, right? But that's not what I'm. Huh?
Hostile environment.
It's not hostile environment is true, but it is a certain privileged group, a social group that is like I slap your back, you slap my back, So we are on back this term, like huh. So we are buddies, we are friends. So we will do things for each other. But anybody who's outside our group, we may not do it for them. So women can't form part of these groups, which are very important, even within science. I have colleagues in academia, I have colleagues in the department, in the university, I have colleagues in IISc, I have colleagues in Department of Biotechnology. And I need to be, okay, I pick up the phone and say, oh, I need this, what do you think? Can it happen? So if those colleagues in high places are my friends, they'll probably move that finger to do it for me. If I don't have that, then I can't get that done, right? Yeah. No, no, even then. Exactly. So there you have it. So so there are many ways. So you may be physically there. Just a tokenism. Nowadays, important to show I have women in this group. I have women in this committee. They have to also show because government now has made policies and all. But yeah. So that inclusivity is not real. You may or may not. So these are the things that we say. Now I'm also talking more of a more informal networking. You see this much more of this abroad actually in the US. It's very important. The social networking with scientists, people in scientific community, because that's how then you talk to each other. You say, oh, this is going on in my lab, so exciting. What about you? What's going on in your research? Then you become buddies. Then you exchange news. Then that person will review your papers and they'll give you a good score to review their papers, to review their grants. They will review yours. So that sort of thing happens, right? Because you're on the same page. So women tend to not be part of those what we call as a clique, or it's called typically as a boys club because mostly the men are part of it. So this they get pushed out of it. So that's the thing. So it's not spoken, it's not according to any written rules, but they are important and we recognize it. Yeah. So that is that's something that is so needed. What we call as networking, social capital. See, I attended a workshop when I was in NIH, which was only about women. I forget the exact name, but anyway, it was about women in science and how you should get yourself ahead. And they called it social capital. So it's like your currency. What is your currency to move up in the field? It is this, it's networking, human contacts, professional contacts. So the wider the network, the more currency you have, the wealthier you are in terms of. Right. So so that's why. So that's what. So they had training. It was called executive leadership in academic medicine. So they had it in the NIH, and I was part of this years ago. And this is one of the things they said. So they said this is very important to get positions and recognition and visibility. So, and also one other thing they said was it's very important to change the culture. So why? What do they mean? Oh, what happened? So why is it important to change the culture? It is because you have to have people who are appreciative of women. Basically the culture has to change in such a way that you appreciate women more, appreciate the contributions better, right? It can't be an environment or a milieu in which women are anyway not appreciated. They're not, sort of highly regarded. their contributions are not valuable, not considered as valuable. You can't have that. So you have to change the culture, which is a long process also. So, the prominent examples of this. So Rosalind Franklin, you know about Rosalind Franklin? No? So she was one of the co-discoverers of DNA. But again, her story has been told and retold and retold and written about very much. She got left out. People say she should have been co-awarded the Nobel Prize. She didn't get it. Watson, Crick, Wilkins, 3 people got the Nobel Prize that year for discovering DNA. They actually took Rosalind's data. She was a very painstaking X-ray crystallographer who collected pictures, X-ray pictures of DNA crystals. Every very careful effort got very good pictures. Without asking her, they've taken her data, used that data, got the structure, and then they got the credit. So many people have written about her story because of this became known. So she didn't get credit and she passed away. Unfortunately, she had cancer and she passed away before the Nobel Awards were even made. But she therefore was kind of, it's been, as I said, widely felt that, she didn't get the due credit that she should have got. So this is like one of the aspects when I say culture, change the culture. So, you have to have enough appreciation for what women are doing. Otherwise, no matter what they do, even something as important as that, you can just push them aside and somebody take credit for it. It's happening many times. I mean, this is one well-known example. So, so there's certain attitudes. So there's certain attitudes that can also leave women out of certain spheres. So I'm interested in doing this particular subject. But somehow what people are telling me in my family and my relatives and my friends is that this area, this field is not for women. Very common, physics and mathematics, not for women. Right? So I think people here are kind of very rare breed that way. So even in the US, that stereotype is much more than India, much more. So what are women's natural abilities? So somebody decides these are women's natural abilities. And so the mentors and the guides and the faculty who are in charge of research programs will say, no, but I shouldn't take a girl because, they won't be good at this. So that again boomerangs. It affects how women's careers will shape up. So they won't take PhD students into their programs because they're women. So in fact, even in the USA, they conducted a systematic study on gender bias in which male students were favored over women in research-intensive department, right? And they found a very clear evidence of bias. It was published in a very prestigious journal many years ago also. And across cultures, you have this attitude. So another thing, of course, frequently the experience of women is, I am in the same job professionally, same field, doing whatever my male colleague is doing, but I get paid less than them. So this is another thing, unequal pay for the same work and the same qualifications. Work is not rated as well as the male colleagues. So as I said, so there are moves. So the Academy has brought out this, they want to make this visible, they want to put women's contributions and they want to facilitate women to come out there and do more because they know that the capacity is something India needs, every country needs. So they're trying to do things, to improve this. But they want a better representation of women, more equitable. But there's certain moves that they need to make, which they haven't made, right? Which work at a more subconscious level, which are more obvious, like putting children's care, child care, flexi timings. These are, I guess, should be more easily maneuvered. They can easily accommodate these things. It should be just a policy decision if they decide that they want women. But what about those things that operate in the fellow's mind? I mean, so these things take longer. So there are many such problems. So I think that's what I have to say.
Thanks so much, Chitra. Thank you. We will continue with the presentation so that then we can leave this as matter for the panel discussion. So thanks so much, Chitra. And now the next speaker is me. So I'm Dr. Priya Hassan, just for an introduction. I teach physics and astrophysics here at Maulana Azad. So my PhD is in astronomy. So essentially my research is in astrophysics and my PhD students basically work in problems of astronomy. So I'm going to tell you, now that Chitra has spoken to us about the general scene for women in science, I'm going to the special case of I'm going to go to the special case of women in astronomy. Okay. 1 minute. Just a second. So, yeah, so like I mentioned, I'm going to specifically talk about the scene of women in astronomy and how does it work for that, right? So, yeah. So, like Chitra mentioned, there are a whole set of women also in astronomy who have, again, the same case where they've done enough of work for Nobel Prizes for various things, but the recognition was not there. Like she mentioned, Joycelyn Bell was an example. There was Margaret Burbage. There are many such women who did a lot of good work, but finally the recognition was not there. And there were women astronomers who actually made history in their kind of work that they did. But somehow it was not considered. Okay. And back home, all of you all are aware of Indian Space Program, and ISRO has been very proud in actually projecting the amount of women engineers specifically, who are part of the space program. And you can see there's a very big contribution of women in there. But this is just an example. There is what is called the International Astronomical Union for astronomers all over the world. And if you look at this image of the General Assembly, they have a general big meet. This was in 1928. You can see where you have these circles, which is literally 6 circles. These are the only women who attended the General Assembly in 1928. Okay, and so what you actually see even in 1932, you can see again the number of women are very, very few. If you even see now the statistics which we have in the International Astronomical Union of women, in 1939 it was about 10%, and now if you say it's getting better, it just got better to 20%, 21%, not much. But if you make a similar divide in terms of age groups, right, you'll see that in the younger generation, the break is about 30-40% in terms of men, women. If you take the overall, you're getting 20%, but with younger, this thing, it's like this. And back to, again, this is also called the leaky pipe, or this is a problem again, where what happens is that if you start off, it's very similar in physics and astronomy. That's why I put both the plots. So you can see, for example, in astronomy or physics, at high school level, you may have 45% women, maybe 55% boys who are doing physics or astronomy. As you go to bachelor's and PhD level, you may have a different breakup, right? Say 25% women, 75% boys. But then when you go on to higher positions, say assistant professors, associate professors, and then full professors. You come to full professors, you have like literally 5%, right? While 95%, 90% of them are all the men, right? And so this is again another picture which Chitra was talking about. If you actually, again, the same plot I was showing you before this, you can see at student-wise, you may have this kind of a break. But when you go to the higher levels, this is full professor level, you can see 95 out of, this is in terms of percentage, you have this being basically men and only so many women. And similar at administrator levels also, you can see there are very few women, and essentially they're all men over there. Now, this is also called the leaky pipe problem. There's also what is called the two-body problem, which Chitra did not mention. I was telling her about it, that often in the sciences, it does happen that people get married while they are studying, okay? Like it happened in my case too. And often what happens is the male is senior, and he gets the job first. And then when the female applies for her job, people think it's a threat. If I have this army of husband and wife who joins our institution, they are like going to shoot everybody. I don't know what do they think we'll do, but they kind of think of it as a threat, you know? So that's what is called the two-body problem. In a very few cases, it is that the woman gets the job and the man doesn't have a job. There are very few cases, but that's generally rare. It's generally the opposite. And then the woman is just left to compromise. Now, this is an example of a developed nation, the US. You can see in the US, if you see in terms of population, white female is about 32%, white male is about 32%, and this is the other groups, the ethnic groups, etc. But when it comes to science and engineering, you can see that 50% of the jobs are only white males. Okay, you have to be white and you have to be male. And then 18% go to women. Starting from a 32%, it's only 18%, so that's less than half. And then you have Asian males, which also have some little bit of a not too bad representation compared to this. So you have only 2% over here, but then you have 13% here, because we all know that our Indians, Asians, they are much more aggressive about their careers, right? We all make our children doctors and engineers and all that. So obviously there are more Asian males in this. Females is only 5%, and it goes like that. So you can see that there's even an ethnic problem also. So what are I just briefly want to speak about what are the three, one is the big problem of the stereotypes, right? There's a stereotype which we have in people's minds, which is woman is the caregiver. She has to be the caregiver for the family, for the older people, for everything. She is the caregiver, right? And the man is the provider. So he has to go out and work so that he provides, right? And what I would say is that there's basically three-step process, which is very important. The first thing is about educating women, letting them know their options, right? That they can take up careers in different fields, for example, educate them. There also has to be a lot to be done about recruitment, because when recruitment takes place, if you have two candidates, male and female, people opt for the male because they feel that the female will have other priorities. She's not going to rush and come to work if we call her for something, but the man will come. She can't come at odd hours. She will not go to odd places. So let us take a man instead, right? So at recruitment level itself, there's a bias. And then this has gone faint, but this is a very important problem. This is the problem of retention. The woman gets the job, but then around that time, she starts a family, she starts getting responsibilities. So it becomes difficult for her to retain her job. And therefore, things like childcare or even flexible work hours, these are the things which can help her retain the job. If those things don't exist, then she can't retain that job, because she has to, attend to those aspects, right? And that's why retaining her is also important, that the university or the company or wherever she works does things that actually help her to retain her job, right? Now, there is the women in astronomy. This is a very specialized science, which has a lot of physics and maths and rocket science in it. And therefore, obviously, in this science, there are very few women, because for various reasons. So we have what is called a Women in Astronomy Working Group. This is our chair. I'm the co-chair. It's interesting that both the chair and co-chair are both Indians, though actually this is the International Astronomical Union, but we are both Indians. And then we have a whole group of other people also who support us. And we have been running this 4-point program. First thing we've been doing about awareness and sustainability, to conduct surveys on working situation of women. Specifically during COVID, it was really, really bad for women, because I think the most brunt of COVID was taken by women, because they had to handle the scene at home. And it's very easy to say, let's chuck out all the servants, but then who does the work at home if you chuck out all the servants, right? So for example, we've been conducting various surveys to try to see what are the problems, what are the issues that women this thing. What I have been very actively involved in what is called training and skill building. It is very important that women, whether you're a scientist or whatever, you should have special skills, traits. You should be able to code, right? In Python, in whatever language it is. You should be able to do things which others cannot do. So there has to be a lot of training and skill building, because if somebody knows that you have the skill to do something, they will agree to all your conditions. I myself have done postdocs where I've actually done it with, it was an Indo-French postdoc. So I literally, they had to be only present half time. Half time I was at home because I had my duties. But they didn't mind it, because if you can deliver what they want, they don't mind it. The other important thing is about fundraising, to provide financial support also to women researchers, because who's going to spare the money for you to do your thesis work, or, to even bind your thesis, right? Or things like that, you need that. And then there has to be a lot of communication dissemination. There has to be sensitization programs and various other things. So we've been doing these different kinds of activities to promote women. And but the problem is the fraction of women, for example, in International Astronomical Union, is still very low. Now, artificially, we've kind of increased the fraction of women in high positions. So the International Astronomical Union president is a woman, okay? And various things have been done. For example, when we have conferences, we actually ask people to give a report. If the funding has come from the IAU, you ask for a report. How many male speakers, how many female speakers, how many female participants, how many male participants, even the invited talks. How many of the invited talks were male and how many were female? So people should consciously ensure that there is representation, right? And women in leadership positions and all that. So if you just see, just to give you an idea, 2019, it's still very bad. See, this is America, the great developed world. And you can see that even America, it's less than 20%, the representation. Instead, if you see, here's Russia, and here's South America, you have it better, 20 to 30%. And then there are some very small pockets where you have 40%, and some where it's more than 40. But you can see that development does not map to gender parity, right? It is not that developed nations have ensured that their women are given their dues. So, like I mentioned, there are various things which we are doing. For example, like I mentioned about checking out on representation in symposia. In the meetings, we have what are called women in astronomy lunches. Obviously, in everything, men are also welcome. Instead, in this, I'm happy that we have at least one man. Ideally, we should have more men because all men have women in their lives. So it's important for them to be also there. There's also what we're doing about mentoring programs where we have mentors for female students who can help them, guide them, not only in professional things, but also in terms of other issues where they want some help. Going out to schools for the outreach, we encourage junior members, studying the gender gap studies, etc., and organizing various things. So I will end with this. I will end with that what we are working for is we don't want reservation for women, okay? Because that is again a form of discrimination, right? We don't want any reservation. What you want is that women can come into the open and get their positions, right? Irrespective of reservation, which is artificial. Let there be a freedom of choice where women can choose if they want a certain profession, equal opportunity for all of them, no requirement for reservation. Let every individual be non-gendered and they can just, be part of whatever subject or area they'd like to be, right? If you don't have women supposing in physics, maths because women don't like it, that's fine. But it should be a question of choice. You'd always feel good if you have a choice about what you're doing, to sit here or not to sit here, right? That's it. So I'll end with that. This was supposed to be 5 minutes. Thank you. So now we'll go on to the next speaker. And sorry. So the next speaker is Bemuna, right? Yeah. So you come and sit over here. You come and sit over here so that No, you come and sit over here. I'll just make you sit here 1 minute. I'll just get you to sit over here. I'll just. So Bemuna, you can talk about yourself. Where are you from?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi. Very good afternoon. Myself, Pamina Begum, and I am from Manu Model School, which is affiliated to CBSE, and it is a part of Manu University itself. So, being a faculty member of Urdu medium, being a faculty member of the Urdu medium school, I would like to give my presentation in Urdu. If it is convenient for
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Sit. Yeah, sit. Sit over here, the camera will come. Introduce yourself. Yeah, start.
मेरा पेपर एम्पावरिंग वुमेन फॉर बिल्डिंग सस्टेनेबल एसेट्स है जिसका मतलब पायदार तरक्की के लिए ख़वातीन का बाइख्तियार होना क्यों ज़रूरी है। तो सबसे पहले हम जानना चाहेंगे कि सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट का कॉन्सेप्ट कहाँ से आया। तो इन द ईयर 1857 नॉर्वे के सदर ब्रुटलैंड ने ये माहिदा पेश किया कि जो मौसमियाती तब्दीलियाँ वाक़ई हो रही है उसके पेश नज़र हम अपनी मौजूदा ज़रूरतों को किस तरह से पूरा करें और आने वाली नस्लों के लिए क्या कुछ छोड़ जाएं हम। और इसी के कंटिन्यूएशन में 2015 में एक और माहिदा तय किया गया पेरिस में, जिसमें SDGs सेट किए गए। जैसे आप सब जानते ही होंगे कि सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट के लिए 17 गोल्स को अचीव करने का टारगेट रखा गया 2030 तक। तो इसी के तहत इसमें एक गोल ये भी है कि जेंडर इक्विटी देखी जाए या फिर इक्वालिटी देखी जाए। तो ख़वातीन का बाइख्तियार होना इसीलिए भी ज़रूरी है क्योंकि हम जानते हैं कि इस एजेंडे को हासिल करने के लिए पायदार तरक्की में ख़वातीन के दरमियान ताल्लुक़ इसीलिए भी ज़रूरी है कि ख़वातीन को हम पीछे नहीं रख सकते हैं किसी भी तरह की तरक्की में, क्योंकि हम जानते हैं अगर हम देखें किसी मुल्क के तालीमी निज़ाम या फिर बेहतर सेहत या फिर देखभाल वसाइल का सही इस्तेमाल, तो इन तमाम का ताल्लुक़ कहीं ना कहीं ख़वातीन से जुड़ा होता है। और मैं ये बात सिर्फ मुलाज़मत पेशा ख़वातीन के लिए नहीं कह रही हूँ, बल्कि घरेलू ख़वातीन का भी उतना ही अहम किरदार होता है। क्योंकि इसकी मिसाल हम ऐसे समझ सकते हैं, जैसे अगर कोई औरत या फिर कोई खातून अगर सिर्फ एक दिन के लिए अपने घरेलू कामकाज छोड़ दे या फिर अपने ख़ानदान वालों की देखभाल छोड़ दे, तो इसका मईशत पर बड़ा असर पड़ेगा, क्योंकि उसके लिए फिर हमें मेड रखना पड़ेगा जो कहीं ना कहीं जाकर फिर मईशत पर असरअंदाज होते हैं। तो तमाम ख़वातीन का इस पायदार तरक्की में बेहद अहम रोल रहेगा। और ये भी देखा जाता है कि पायदार तरक्की के लिए जैसे SDGs के गोल है, इसमें नो हंगर या फिर बेटर लाइफस्टाइल एंड जैसे कि क्लीन वाटर एंड सैनिटेशन जैसी चीज़ें बयान की गई हैं। तो ये बहुत हद तक बाइख्तियार ख़वातीन या फिर बाशऊर ख़वातीन के ज़रिए मुकम्मल की जा सकती हैं। जैसे हम जानते ही हैं कि अगर हम ख़वातीन को बाशऊर करें, क्योंकि इन वसाइल का बहुत हद तक इस्तेमाल औरतों के ज़रिए ही होता है, क्योंकि चाहे वो पानी की बचत का मामला हो या फिर ईंधन की बचत हो या फिर दीगर कुदरती वसाइल के बारे में, तो अगर हम इन्हें तालीम देंगे या फिर इन्हें बाशऊर बनाएंगे तो बेशक इनका एक अहम रोल रहेगा कुदरती वसाइल या फिर पायदार तरक्की में आगे बढ़ने के लिए या फिर इस चीज़ को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए। तो इसी के साथ मैं अपना प्रेजेंटेशन ख़त्म करना चाहूँगी, क्योंकि ब्राउचर में सिर्फ 5 मिनट कहा गया था, तो मैंने अपने 5 पेजेस को सिर्फ बहुत ज़्यादा शायद कंसाइज कर दिया। थैंक यू सो मच, थैंक यू सो मच, थैंक यू।
You mailed it for one? I mailed it. Oh, thanks. Oh, yeah. It won't catch your voice, I think. You come here. I'll just come. No, no, I'm asking her to come. That's it. आपने ईमेल किया ना? सॉरी, आपका नाम? Just a minute, huh? You just. 1 minute, huh? Nasreen Fatima. Can you find it here? Yeah. Here. Okay. Okay, I think I did this one. And already done.
Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening to one and all. To talk about when we were talking about this women in science, I would first of all like to thank Manu for giving me this opportunity to share my ideas and the views with the panel. And I wish that by the end of the session we go along with some good, we ponder on and come with some solutions to this problem. So this is me. And just now when Priya was talking about, apart from running this school, I am also a career guidance counselor. So as Priya was telling you, most of the time women, they say it has been stereotyped that a woman cannot be an astronomer or cannot take maths or physics, science. So there are certain things, physical activities, physical motor potential, we call it. We think that it's not there in the women, and it is a mindset. So what we are doing in the school is right from the beginning, because as neuroscience says, 0 to 9 is the age where you can tap the maximum potentials in an individual. And these children, when they are growing up, we do a psychometric analysis test to find out their interest. So to my amazement, I found there are many men who love cooking. They would like to be chefs. They want to be into that area, but because it's a mindset society does not accept, they do not, like a movie like Kia and Kia was there, where they were, so the roles of man and woman can be exchanged, but this is not happening because they are not accepted by the society, culture or traditions, etc. in a place, whereas it's not there in other countries. In other countries we find it, like if you take about US, in US we see that these roles are being transmitted between both of them. Sometimes wife is not having a job and husband takes care of the home. This is what happens in other places, but here it's not happening because it is the culture and the traditions that's hampering them from it. So coming to this, have anybody seen this anywhere where a woman can put her hands in oil? Yes, they fry pakoras or samosas are fried where women put their hands inside it. So do anyone knows the history behind it? Is it fake? So the reality behind it, that is what right now we were talking about Nobel laureates. There are people like Madame Curie was the first woman who became a Nobel laureate. But whereas we don't find anybody from India. So what I feel is in India, we have got numerous scientists inside the kitchen, but we are not documenting or presenting it. That is one of the major reasons. So if you look at India is a rich traditionally, religiously. So the mythology, if you look into Hindu mythology, do you know about Agni Pariksha? How many of you know about Agni Pariksha? Yeah, go through the fire. Yeah. So this tradition, what was actually happening, the women were supposed to, supposing if a man doubts her sanctity, purity and all, she was made to put her hands into the boiling oil. And if her hand burns, they used to think that she is faulty. And if it's not burning, she is pure. So this is where a woman was struggling hard. Actually, she is the first scientist in India, I should say. So women came up with an idea where, like, one thing is the mindset and another thing is how fast they can have their hands, resistant to heat. If you look at this woman, she says that, it's appropriate. She said tongs are for losers. For them, tongs are for losers. Those losers can use tongs. So their hands have developed something called a fatty substance in their hands called cellulose. And then these women, they started practicing it at home. Whenever they were cooking, they were putting their hands into the boiling oil and taking out their hands. So their hands naturally developed it. And that is how, they are able to pass this test. So that is how how did this cellulose fatty substance that is developed into it came into existence, and the women can do this. And then these are some of the women who have really struggled and the Nobel laureates. But again, we see that they're all from the underdeveloped countries. And why did they have to go to some other part of the countries like world, like Canada or America? So this is also where we have to ponder. Most of the Indians like C.V. Raman and others who are the Nobel laureates also got it in other countries, not in India. So why is that? That is also a need to ponder. And Kalpana Chawla, we know it very well. And if you look at Alfred Nobel, so Alfred Nobel, do you all know the story of Alfred Nobel and this first women prize winner, Madame Curie? What is the story behind it? Do anyone knows about it?
Stop for a second. No, I want just to stop for a second.
You have to stop first?
Yeah, please, just a minute. Madam, yeah. Small appreciation from Manu, big achieved. So we want this first time, and Mrs. Saria, please, our student, Mrs. Karan. Mansa, if you can. Dr. Abhi, madam, please. Okay, okay. Thank you, madam. Bye. Madam, please. Sorry, very sorry to stop because we have to move to valedictory session. Thank you, madam. Thanks for each and everyone for being with us. Thank you.
Shall I continue? So we were here. I wanted to ask you: do you know the story about how this Alfred Nobel Prize? Okay, Nobel Prize. We are getting Nobel Prize. Why did Alfred Nobel had to do this? Do anybody know the story behind it? Okay, as ma'am was saying, I've got only 2 minutes. Please search this story yourself. But I would like to say that when Alfred Nobel has done something for destruction, Madame Curie has come for constructive with the same radioactive power. She was very constructive. So, as we say that necessity is the mother of invention. So we women are the one who are going to face and suffer a lot when there are problems. So we have to come out with an innovations. It is very much required for a nation to develop, to have women in science. And exactly, we just believe in most of the things without knowing the reason behind it. So recently I was talking to one of my friend in USA, where they say that they have celebrated Thanksgiving festival. So during that, she was saying that they bring turkey, and it's a tradition or a ritual where they cut its head and the tail part and bake the rest of the turkey. So she wanted to know why, because she always liked the tail part to eat, and she says that why during turkey festival this is not been celebrated. So there is a ritual, nobody knows it. So she went to the root cause to find out to her grandmother and great grandmother. So her great grandmother told her the reason behind it is, at that time, the ovens were very small. Now we are getting big sized ovens. So that was the reason we were cutting it. Now, why do you cut it? So there is a reason. I just wanted to know, we are just reading about when I Google or see that. So why not one of the already existing scientists with us? She is Madam Dr. Khaisar Jamil, who has helped us in working out with, on control of mosquitoes, our school students projects, and Tolichoki is free of mosquitoes because of a project. So ma'am is helping still. So I wanted to talk to her. So she said, the journey as a scientist for a women is very, very difficult. And according to her, she says that we find most of the time, problems within the organization where we are working. And we are a lot of trouble for the women to come up, as Chitra ma'am and Priya ma'am were also mentioning the same. And if you look at the survey, you see that Iceland being a very, very small country, if you can see where Iceland is and where India is, with limited resources, but it is the country with the highest GDP or per capita income, whereas India, when you cannot compare where India is. And the reason behind it is there are more and more women in STEM, in science, in Iceland. So it's a very small country, so a women in science can bring a lot of productivity and change, because budgeting, health of the family, society, in turn society, community, and the whole nation can benefit if more women are in science. So this is what one more of the this we have found out, that the international India also taking into leading the political independence, and from the villages and everywhere we found that the Women's Day we celebrate now. 8th March is coming, and we talk about sustainable goals, but we all had to ponder, are we able to sustain in future, or this would continue? And if it has to be a sustainable goal, what are we supposed to do? And as Abdul Kalam has very well, APJ Abdul Kalam has said, empowering women is prerequisite for creating a good nation. When women are empowered, society with stability is assured. Empowerment of women is essential, as their value system leads to the development of good family, society, and ultimately a good nation. So this is what is the UN Secretary also talks about. And if you look at this, some of the data which is being collected on the conceptualizing gender basis in India is this. And you just see how many. And another important aspect why the women should be there, there was a survey done when it comes to the corruption and bribery. Women, if the women are heading their organization, the bribery and corruption is less when compared when it is done by men. I'm not just blaming men. I don't know why they are forced to do that with so many responsibilities. But if women takes the charges on the highest post, so this can also be one of the where a country can become corruption free. And alarming situation in our community, in particularly Muslim community, the data which I have collected, out of 3 men, only 1 is employed. Out of 7 women, only 1 is employed. And out of 5, only 1 child can afford higher education. This is and post-COVID, this has fallen to 35 to 40%. So this is very alarming, where the women had to wake up and work on it. So, and to do this, as Priya ma'am was, Chitra ma'am was talking about, building connections. Women had to do that, and there are very few, but I think thanks to technology, we can get connected. Such women, like-minded women, should get connected with each other, and until unless we don't have networking and connections, we may not be able to do that. Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
I'm sorry we have to hurry up. We are anyway missing the valedictory, but yeah. So now we have Shabana Kaisar. Not this one, but it is Shabana Kaisar.
I had sent her also.
This one, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good afternoon to all of you. I hope you can hear me from here. You can start.
Okay.
So basically, we have been hearing from Chitra ma'am, Priya ma'am, and already the earlier presenters have also highlighted on this issue that we have been seeing and reading and knowing about such women who have made remarkable contribution in the field of science and technology. But still, we see that there is a glass ceiling which exists in this, especially in the science field as compared to other. So first, in context of women in science, we need to understand what is this glass ceiling actually. Uh, it is like it refers to an invisible but a very pervasive barrier that prevents the women from advancing to higher levels according to leadership and achievement within the scientific field and despite their qualification skills and abilities. This glass ceiling represents women limitations, biases, and structural obstacles. This is like unlike the overt forms of discrimination, such as explicit policies or regulations, the glass ceiling is very subtle and often goes unrecognized by those who perpetuate it. It operates through the implicit biases, cultural norms, and structural inequalities within the scientific institution and organizations. The glass ceiling manifests as a series of barriers that prevent women from ascending to higher levels of leadership and influence within the scientific discipline. The glass ceiling is rooted in the systematic inequalities and gender biases that pervade the scientific institutions and cultures. I'm going a little bit, not reading all the part. So this has a very significant and a personal and professional consequence for women in science. And there are various intersectional analysis also which institute women's participation like gender, caste, or their socioeconomic background also. And I won't be focused. Is it not?
Yeah, it's not going. I'll have to reset.
Okay. Just a minute. Oh, I had done so much of work on this.
There are certain things which needs to be
Okay.
displayed.
Yeah, is it? But again, it's going here.
I think there are too many PowerPoints.
Maybe. Yeah, if it is like this also, it works.
Okay.
No problem.
So that it's not sharing.
I have already, I have already
Just
covered
not
this.
this.
Okay, fine. Like I said, it was an invisible barrier. This I won't repeat because already ma'am has focused on this. Challenges faced by women in past, which talked about gender stereotypes. Throughout history, women have been, prevailing gender norms and stereotypes that has perpetuated. The idea that women are intellectually inferior to men or better suited for the domestic roles. So these stereotypes reinforce societal expectations that women should prioritize family and household duties over pursuing careers in academia or scientific research. Limited access to institutions, even women who sought access to formal education and scientific institutions, they often encountered discriminatory practices. Many universities and research institutions barred women from taking admission or restricted their participation in certain disciplines. Restriction or career opportunities. There was very underrepresentation in history, as we already know that history is devoid of women's participation in history, science, and they have not got that kind of recognition. Despite these obstacles, there were pioneering women who defied societal expectations and made significant contributions, which have already been discussed, like Marie Curie, who has got the Nobel Prize for her contribution to physics and chemistry. Then Rosalind Franklin also, who has, X-ray diffraction images of DNA. I'm just going on, like skipping all this. This Barbara Tintock. Then Dorothy Houghton, she developed X-ray crystallography techniques to determine the structure of very complex molecules. Then Ada Lovelace has also contributed. She was the first computer programmer for her works on Charles Babbage. Then we see Shin Shu Wu. She has also contributed to physics. So there are many women, remarkable women, as already stated. In now we see in ISRO or NASA also women are taking a lead, and great success has also been seen in this. Now, very quickly, I am going to highlight the statistics regarding the gender representation in various scientific fields, like the STEM, where science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, we see only 20% of girls enrolling into the bachelor's degree. Then in case of astronomy and physics, as madam has already highlighted, 20 to 15% of girls are seen in physics and astronomy. And medicine and life sciences, well, regarding medicine, we see that women are well represented in medical schools and life sciences, but again, there are some specialities where women or girls, they are being biased, like for example, neuro or brain surgeons. Again, women are marginalized to taking gynecologies and like child pediatricians, like that. So here is also some kind of discrimination, but the situation is much better. Then in computer science and information technology, again, women remain underrepresented in computer science and information technology fields. So these are the persistent challenges and barriers which are faced by women around the sectors. We can say the gender bias and the stereotypes. Women continue to face pervasive gender bias and stereotypes in the workplace, including assumptions about their competence, their leadership abilities, and commitment to their careers. Stereotypes about the gender roles may lead to women overlooked for leadership positions, and as already mentioned, they have unequal pay and compensation for the same work they do. Then representation, lack of representation in the leadership role. Women are underrepresented in leadership positions across various sectors, including academia, business, government, and science field especially. And the glass ceiling phenomena persists here also. Then we see limited access to mentorship and sponsorship. Women face challenges in accessing mentorship and sponsorship opportunities, which are very crucial for the career development and advancement. Male-dominated networks and informal mentorship structures may exclude or marginalize women, limiting their access to support and guidance from the senior professionals. Barriers to advancement and promotion. Women may encounter barriers in case of their advancement or promotion. The broken rung phenomena refers to the tendency for women to be underrepresented in entry level or the managerial positions or to the higher leadership roles. And also a hostile kind of work environment and harassment is also restricting women, showing their ability in the field of science. And there are also intersectional challenges like their socioeconomic status, disability, or sexual orientation, ethnicity, race, like that. So what are the recommendations? Like to improve the women's participation in science or to gain recognition, that we need to guide and advise women, and we need a career development and advancement, role modeling and inspiration, networking as has been highlighted, and professional connections, of course, building confidence and self-efficacy, navigating work-life balance, very important factor, because women have to balance her family and work along with the, because here the productive age and the reproductive age often goes hand in hand. So she has to learn or navigate the work-life balance. Then creating a support communities is very important. Implementing the policies and initiatives in an effective manner will also go in long way. Increasing representation in leadership, supporting mentorship networking, fostering inclusive research cultures, investing in STEM education and outreach programs, promoting work-life balance, addressing the unconscious bias and stereotypes, advocacy for policy changes, societal changes, we need to address those also, and promoting equity and inclusions will go a long way in improving the situation. At the end, affirming the importance of women's contributions to science is not only the matter of recognizing their individual achievements, but also acknowledging the collective impact they have on advancing knowledge, driving innovation, and promoting equity and inclusion in STEM fields. By celebrating and valuing the contribution of women scientists, we may create a more diverse or equitable and inclusive scientific community that benefits all of us. So thank you very much for the opportunity. I thank the organizers for giving this chance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Shabana Kaisar. And now we move on to our next talk, which will be by Dr. Aisha Ali. ये आपके उससे आया ना?
हाँ, शिवाना के ART, हाँ, ये
This is
ART.
it is there on the IMC channel. You go to the IMC channel. Manu has an IMC channel, you go there. Yeah, it's live now.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Aisha from Center for Study and Research, New Delhi. It's an independent organization, non-profit based, and its aim is to develop a value-based, holistic knowledge ecosystem with transcendental approach. So today I will be now we have heard a lot, we have learned a lot about why the representation of the woman in the science is low, and Chitra ma'am and Priya ma'am has given that reproductive function is one of the reason also, because of which they lag behind in the jobs, or they face many failures in that because they have many responsibilities. Now today I will show you how science is impacting this function of the woman. The advanced technologies, how it is impacting the womanhood and how it is impacting the family system. So it's down here.
Yeah.
I'll just give a brief introduction. It's what's a reproductive health. If we talk about that, it's a health that implies that people are able to have the capability to reproduce, and it's a woman's right to have an appropriate healthcare services that enable her to safely go through the pregnancy and childbirth. Historically, if we go from 19th century to till date, we have seen that this system is slowly has evolved from the 19th century, and there were certain cultural influence was there with which the women were struggling. But in the late 20th century, because of the significant advancement in the reproductive technologies, the more possibilities have opened, and now the woman is feeling that she can be freed from this responsibility also. But how this can impact the whole family system also, or the womanhood, we will discuss now. If you see in the infertility rate also, the World Health Organization has given 1:6 ratio in 2023. And according to Indian Society of Assisted Reproduction, 27.5 million people in India, women in India are facing infertility rate. So it has become a very huge market.
And if you see that everything, now the trend is everything should be very quick. Now when I speak with the clinicians, they'll say that the couples, they will come and after 1 or 2 rounds, they'll just want to go for the advanced technologies. They don't want to wait. So this approach has also impact a lot in encouraging these technologies. Now, if you see that what are the assisted reproductive technologies, IVF and all has now become old, or you can say that outdated. Now the current is surrogacy, artificial womb, now the science, and then the somatic embryogenesis means that now you don't need an egg or a sperm to have a child. You can give your own cells, stem cells, and then they can grow a child, embryo in the lab, and they will give you a child. So you don't have to go through the motherhood process or pregnancy process like that. So the reason that previously, now let's see what is the bioethical indication for surrogacy to adopt absence of uterus or there are some clinical conditions are there, and there are certain cultural perspectives are also there. The popular culture, body shaming, to be a mother without going through the motherhood, because they'll see the woman only completeness only when she reproduced. Femininity, she has to produce her, prove her femininity. Physical and emotional and biological stress associated with the motherhood. So she wants to be liberated from this so that she can pursue her careers. She can focus more on that, or she can more compete in the market with the males. Now this I will skip. But how this has impacted, if you see it, I'll just show you. Number one is these technologies, they have fragmented the reproductive function. Like now you will have a gestational mother, now you can have a legal mother, or now you can have a biological mother. So the mother is divided into different components. You can be a biological mother by giving your cells. You can be a gestational mother by offering gestation. You can be a legal mother by hiring a surrogate. So the motherhood is completely shattered now. And if you see it, there is a separation between the sexual reproduction relationship and the reproduction. Now the woman, she will say that she doesn't have to go, she doesn't have to marry. So it's opening a parallel channel and increasing like the family system, like this is discouraging the family system. Now even a male, a single male, LGBTQ people or same-sex people, they can opt for a child. They don't have to marry or get into these relationships. Similarly, the woman will also think of that. So how the science is really impacting it. So it has wedges the potential family relationship of our society by involving the third person in the relationship. When you are hiring a surrogate, you are involving a third person in your relationship. Or you are hiring a gametes or something, yeah, you are involving a third person in your family relationship. Yeah. So now comes to the socio-cultural construct of the womanhood, how it is impacting. The traditional roles and expectation of the woman in the society is challenged. We see that we want a woman to be a mother. We see in that cultural perspective. Now this, because of this technology, it is liberating the woman from this. So, yeah, everything is artificial. Now you just give yourself, you will get a child without going through the pregnancy problem or the labor pain or everything. Yeah, so she's getting liberated from here, and she can hire a maid and she can give a child to that to manage it. So she's totally free. Pardon? No, I can say that coming to the last, first I'll give you this perspective and then we will discuss about it. I just want to show that how science is impacting unknowingly or silently. It is changing now because the women are more aspire to have a career, a good career, or to be in the higher positions or something. Whoever can afford it, they can go for that. But it has if you see it, the medicalization of the womanhood. is there. And the empowerment versus objectification, like you are taking the woman as an object or as a commodity. So this is also challenged here. Now the reproductive autonomy, who will decide the ethical dilemmas? Who will decide the rights of the child, the right of the woman, or the right of the woman who has given birth, or the right of the woman who is biologically? Who will decide that? There are many concerns in this. And there are many policies have already framed, but still the problem is not solved because it's becoming more and more complicated. The future direction which I can suggest is in the intersectionality of classical feministic discourse, or calls to action for researchers, policymaker, and healthcare provider, like effective implementation of the policies, taking into consideration the transcendental approaches rather than taking the secular approaches. I would suggest that because women from each and every culture and traditions, they are going from the same phase. Extended synthesis of role of religion in gender. This is very important. And allied discourse pertaining to ART and women, that how religion is seeing women is very important. In every religion, the woman has a specific position. In every religion, woman, the mother has a specific distinct. So how we see it from the religion perspective is very important before we go for such technologies or opting for such technologies or encouraging such things in there. If you see, I think I just missed those pictures. I'm आपको complete नहीं आ पाया है. So with this I'll end. Maybe some slides are missed here, where I was trying to show that now they have created certain say the incubators, where they are just now currently it is using for the preterm babies, but the future this thing is they want to grow the baby there, because now already the scientists, they have cultured the embryo up to 14 days, the human embryo, which they have taken from the cells, not from the gametes, this egg or the sperms. So they have successfully done that, and because of the ethical this thing, they have stopped it there. But maybe, yeah, that all may be affected, because when a mother gestate a baby, there are many things, psychological, emotional, many bondings with it. And then you are trying to be free from that bondings. Okay, my doctor.
Yeah.
Nice meeting all of you.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
Ma'am, take care.
Left behind something. I couldn't figure out until I heard somebody. Yeah, he's sitting right in front of me.
हाँ जरा वहाँ बाहर किसी को दे दो ना, उनको नीचे लेके जाएंगे.
ये भी लेंगे.
मदनी हाँ किसी को भेज दो नीचे उनके साथ. अब अपने कितने बाकी रहे? हेलो, और अब कितने बाकी रहे, क्योंकि वी हैव टू फिनिश. मैम, विच इज योर प्रेजेंट? वन सेकेंड, किसका प्रेजेंटेशन रहा? वी आर ओवर नहीं, एज पर माई शेड्यूल. अच्छा, या एज पर शेड्यूल इट्स ऑल ओवर. अच्छा, बिकॉज आई एक्चुअली हैव टू गो टू द फिजिक्स सेक्शन. मेरा बात चल रहा है. आपका है नहीं, आपका है, बट वही मुझे उधर जाने का है. आई हैव टू. They won't be able to handle it.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I thank the university for giving me this opportunity, and Priya Prasanna ma'am, Shabana sir, and all the esteemed participants of this session. It's my pleasure to present, and I would start right away saying that Yatra yatra narasya pujyate tatra ramante devaha. Where the women are respected, there the, what you say, pious spirits stay. So women are respected from our ancient time. It is the social bindings and the society for their benefits. They have modified it. Like that only we have in, this was the Sanskrit version of the Vedas. Now, like in the Arabic, we have Talabul ilmi farizatan ala kulli muslimati wa muslimatin. That means how much ever the male persons have the opportunities of studies, that much equal opportunities must be given even to the women. Similarly, there is a Chinese proverb, if you are planning for a year, sow rice. If you are planning for a decade, plant trees. If you are planning for a lifetime, educate people. So that is the respect what women have in our documents, in our books. It is the society for their benefits and for their, what you say, ambitions, they have modified it. Otherwise, I would like to say, we women are here because of our fathers. We are here because of the help of our brothers. We are here because of our spouses who have some way or other helped us in coming up, or in our jobs, you say, in our identity, in maintaining and bringing up the education in progress. So my paper today is regarding women in science and technology. अच्छा राइट वाला ये नहीं ये वाला ये ओके okay, thank you ma'am. So I have to do now this only, okay?
Yeah, so now you just do space.
Okay, okay, space, okay, thank you so much. So we as mothers also have to train our sons, our men of this era to be like how to respect their women, like how they respect their mother, respect your wife, respect your daughter, similarly your spouse as well. So we are the women who make the society, and we can bring this transformation. We are the reformers. So we as sisters and all delegates here will carry this message. Okay. So introduction here is, in recent years, the role of women in science and technology has gained significant attention and recognition. Women have made remarkable contributions to these fields, breaking barriers and shattering stereotypes along the way. Women play a vital role in science and technology, highlighting their achievements, challenges, and the importance of gender diversity in these domains. Challenges and overcoming bias. Despite their achievements, women in science and technology continue to face challenges. Gender bias, stereotypes, and lack of representation persist, leading and underrepresentation of women in these fields. So to our daughters, previously there was only male, when a male child is born, people would be happy. Now the matter is different. Either male or women, female, men or women, we have to live our lives to give togetherness and to support the family. So women must be supported, daughters. Beti padhao, beti bachao. Beti bachao, beti padhao. That is the social binding which has, the reform which has come now. So let us all carry that message. We as educators of the generation, let us carry this forward. However, women have shown resilience and determination in overcoming these obstacles. organizations and initiatives promoting gender equality, mentorship programs, and increased awareness have helped create a more inclusive environment for women in science and technology. Inspiring future generations. The achievement of women in science and technology serve as an inspiration for future generations. Sustainability, what we are talking about. By showcasing the compliments of women in these fields, we encourage young girls to pursue their passions and break down the barriers that may stand in their way. Role models and mentorship programs play a vital role in nurturing the next generation of female scientists and technologists. Here is a list of scientists which you can see. Indian scientists. I have focused on Indian scientists. Like many of our participants have spoken about Rosalind Franklin, who discovered about DNA. Then there are challenges overcoming bias, the importance of gender diversity, which I have discussed. We have to unlock the wealth of untapped potential which lies in women, the driving advancements in science and technology and the society as a whole. Now, inspiring future generations, the achievements of women in science and technology serve as an inspiration for future generations. By showcasing the accomplishments of women in these fields, we encourage young girls to pursue their passions and break down the barriers that may stand in their way. Now, women scientists of India, there are some figures shown here. I'll just read out few. E.K. Janaki Ammal, she was a founder fellow of Indian Academy of Sciences, winner of Padma Shri Award, was a renowned botanist and a plant cytologist who made significant contributions to the genetics, evolution, phytogeography, and ethnobotany. Similarly, B. Vijay Lakshmi, 1950 to 1985, she did her PhD in Madras, from Madras. For her research, she studied relativistic wave equations and their proportion. Just now, the participants were talking about women in physics. She expired on 12th May 1985 at the age of 33. Women, due to different reasons, of course, now the medical, medicine has improved so much. Otherwise, women generally were not having long life because of different reasons of birth and child and due to hormonal imbalances, all that. And then next, Anandibai Joshi. Even her case, she died at the very young age of 22. She was the first woman who studied medicine to become a doctor in America. So Philadelphia, Anandibai Joshi, the first Hindu woman to obtain a medical degree in the Western Hemisphere. I mean to say, Indian woman was born. She was born Yamuna Joshi on March 31st, but later she was named Anandibai Joshi. Then next, Iravati Karve, this renowned anthropologist was the head of the Department of Sociology and Anthropology of Deccan College. She presided over Anthropology Division of National Science Congress in 1947. Her writings include highly acclaimed book Yuganta, which won the Sahitya Academy Award. Now, next there is Anna Mani. She did her, okay. The only women scientist to work with C.V. Raman, but her work was it was hidden, or it was known for her work in atmospheric physics, in instrumentation, joining the India Meteorological Department. She rose to become the Deputy Director General of Observation in Delhi. Qamar Rahman, PhD, she did her research at Lucknow University and adjacent professor of Hamdard University, Delhi, a recipient of UP Ratna Award. And one more example, I would like to say the live example. Now presently, Sudha Murthy is an Indian educator, author, philanthropist, the first engineer, women engineer to take such high levels, former chairperson of the Infosys Foundation. She married to N.R. Narayana Murthy, was awarded Padma Shri, the fourth highest civilian award in India for social work by the Government of India. Next, schemes by the Government of India for women in science. Now there are certain schemes which now presently we have: Women Scientist Scheme, Vigyan Jyoti Scheme, Biotechnology Career Advancement and Reorientation, BioCare, Women Technology Park, Women Scientists and Entrepreneurship Network, Women in Science Fellowships, AICTE, Pragati scholarship for technical education, Swati, or science for women or technology innovation. It is for us women to grab this opportunity and encourage our future generation to follow up and take these opportunities provided by the government. Thank you. This is my presentation of paper of my son who had done on, this is about you say environmental pollution, which must be zero pollution, or plastic can be, instead of plastic, we can make eco-friendly material. This is my son's PhD, which is doing in JNTU. So this was my paper presented in the recent conference. Another son. He is also one of my sons. Elder son.
So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Priyasam. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for
thank you very much.
giving the
Yeah.
opportunity.
Okay,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Sorry, it's a little hurried up.
Not-
but
not
obviously, sir is calling out, I think, for valedictory.
Yeah.
So, and I also have a problem. The problem is that there's a parallel physics session where I need to go. Yeah.